Hey guys, today's guest is Java Champion, and that's such a developer community thing. And that's exactly what we talked about, how to participate in the community and engage, because that's the main goal. Today's guest, Brian Vermeer.
Beyond Coding. Welcome to Beyond Coding, a dive into the world of successful people in IT. From your sponsors, Zebia, creating digital leaders. Here's your host, Patrick Akil.
Hey Brian, how's it going, man?
Hey man, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. This is actually the second recording. Fire alarm went off earlier, so it's a thing we have to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, hopefully that's just be the one time that a fire alarm gets off and we don't have any firefighters in the room dragging us along, because we just agreed we will continue until they drag us out.
Exactly. We agreed upon that.
Absolutely.
So today I wanted to talk about the engineering communities and developer communities. And you're a person that's very involved in those communities as well. How'd you get involved in the first place?
Yeah, I still wondered that myself. I mean, I have no clue. Now, I started by just engaging with communities because I wanted to learn something. Going to meetups, going to conferences, and talking to people. Yeah. And then I wanted to share knowledge as well. Like, I think I have something interesting to say. Yeah. And then I ended up like running multiple communities. So in a nutshell, that's how I ended up just engaging and running into it. It's all coincidental. Yeah. But it's also something I really like. I really enjoy. It's a lot of fun, and you can learn from it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think the knowledge sharing aspect and just the learning aspect is something that is very distinct in our community. But I don't see it in other communities necessarily. What do you think that is? That it is more on the software development community?
I think because as developers or engineers, and I can only relate from my point of view, as from my ecosystem where I am, but yeah. I think for many developers, it counts that you have a life of learning. You need to learn constantly. We're going so fast. New frameworks, new ecosystems, new languages, new components. Like, say, 10 years ago, it was just creating an application, and then we have the operations folks put it into production. I don't have to take care of that. Now we need to do that ourselves. Just to make an example, we need to learn. We need to constantly learn. And I think communities can help you with that, and also help you grow as a person, as a developer, to be more than just typing code or creating software.
Yeah. One of the things I love about it there is competition, but it's not the main thing, right? It's more cooperation and teaching each other things that we've learned, and learning yourself along the way, and just learning things and paying it forward.
I think between developers, there's no real competition. Yeah. There might be a competition, but that's more of a friendly thing between, hey, are you doing JavaScript or Java or Kotlin versus what, like these kind of things, but not real competitor. They're not real competitors. Yeah. It's more the companies might be competitors, but as a developer, you just want to grow, you want to learn, you want to create cool things. Yeah. So I feel like by cooperating and seeing what other people did, talking to them, learning from them, going to meetups, whatever. There's so many things, or helping each other out with an open source project. Yeah. That can be so beneficial for your own growth, but also you give back to it. By doing that, you also give it back to the community right away. Yeah.
You pay that forward always.
Absolutely. You pay that forward, and community is it's not just getting or giving by being there, by just going to a meetup, listening to what that speaker says, but also the only thing you have to do is, or in my opinion, engage with other people. Yeah. Like, talk about what that talk was about. Like, how did you find out, or how are you working with it? Or maybe talk with the speaker afterwards to say, like, I'm having these kind of specific problems. How do you think about it? And if you share that knowledge and you share the thing, other people around you are listening as well. So it grows and it keeps growing. So by even just participating, you are already giving back, in my opinion.
Yeah. You're just becoming part of it and becoming part of the greater whole.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you started out in a nutshell kind of as participant, and at some point you were like, well, I might have something to share. Yeah. But what made you take that step and either go on a stage or take that sharing position?
I think it was like a couple of years ago. I think about 5-6 years ago or something. Yeah. it's 2021 now, so maybe even more. But you know what? Time flies when you're staying at home.
Yeah.
But the point was, I saw people talking about all sorts of things, like from beginner level to super advanced stuff. So then you saw like there is an audience for everyone, and everything that you do can be, to some extent, beneficial for somebody else.
Yeah.
Even though you're doing something that has been done multiple times, maybe 10 times, 20 times, doesn't matter.
Okay.
But you're coping with certain problems like, hey, how are we doing caching validation for whatever?
Yeah.
Maybe that's interesting to share, like how you do it for a multi-billion company. And that gives somebody else an idea like, maybe that's a good approach to research. Maybe not just to grab and put into my system, but to research that, or what kind of techniques are you using? What kind of products are you using? And these kind of ideas, if you share them.
Yeah.
And by thinking it from that point of view, I started like sharing what I did and what I was finding interesting. I was doing some best practices on things like, okay, maybe we can share this. Created a talk out of that.
Yeah.
Submitted to a conference, got accepted. First, got 100 declines, of course. But at a certain point, I got accepted, and I start talking. I start working on this talk, start demoing.
Yeah.
And that builds up to something.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't know how's the gap you need to cross, because I don't know if what you need to have needs to be perfect or really high quality.
Not high. Depends on what you think of high quality.
Yeah.
So you have to look at what is my audience.
Yeah.
And that's also like if you're having a meetup, if you're running a meetup or you're running a community is a umbrella.
It is,
thing, right? But if you are running, you have a specific amount of people or a specific set of people that you serve.
Yeah. And
just look at what are their needs.
Yeah.
And if you look at that, then something can, even though some people are very, very mature in things, they might be, and they are super good in development, but maybe they're not so good in container orchestration or something like that, and they want to learn it.
Yeah.
So meaning you're a seasoned developer doesn't mean that you are well known or good in everything.
Yeah.
So there's always something, and that's coming back to that basic point. You're constantly learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything that you did some things might not be very interesting to you, but can be interesting to somebody else, depending on the meetup or the conference. And I think what is key for that, for instance, if you talk about getting accepted for a conference as a speaker, is finding that specific angle. What makes your talk interesting? For instance, if I say, hey, I'm going to show you how we transformed from a monolithic application to a microservice architecture. I think there are a trillion talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make it specific, like, okay, we had a bunch of problems with caching and caching validation in this specific language when we transformed from a microservice from a monolith to a microservice.
Yeah.
And how did we solve these caching problems while having 10,000 requests per second? And then it's like, okay, now you specify it to a certain niche or you have a specific angle on this.
Yeah.
And then it can be interesting. Or how our thing went totally wrong.
Exactly.
Like these horror stories are also always a personal favorite of mine.
Yeah, I can imagine. But then I'm just thinking for myself, right? I haven't submitted anything. I don't think I want to be a speaker yet, but because it does feel like a gap you need to cross, and it's quite big in my opinion to stand up on a stage. But maybe it's also about comfort. Am I comfortable standing on a stage and sharing my knowledge, even though I'm not confident in what I have to share? But I like the way you lay it out, that you don't necessarily have that. Well, your opinion is not the only one. It might be interesting for someone else, even though you might not see it in that way.
And just remember that you don't have to be a speaker to participate in a community. Community is far more than speakers and people that visit the speaker and listening. Yeah. Like help out with a open source project, help out with a hackathon. If you did something cool, like maybe we can create a workshop out of that. Yeah. And that is not specifically going on stage and speaking to 100 people or 200 people. That might be, well, frightening. And I get that. Yeah. I mean, it's part of my job now, but that can be frightening for a lot of people. Yeah. But community work is not about, I need to be a speaker.
Okay.
Community work is by participating.
Yeah.
Participating, sharing, talking, meeting other people, sharing knowledge, helping each other out. Because, hey, I needed to write blog posts, and I had no clue how to do that.
Yeah.
I just go but I go to people in the community and ask, like, how are you doing this? I'm having this problem, and I'm probably not the first one having this problem, but how are you solving this, or what is your process around this?
Yeah.
And they just like, oh, look at this one. I've got some resources over here. And I just simply ask them, and even though these people might be the big shots in the community, try to contact them.
Yeah.
And try to ask them by, like, hey, I'm having this problem, and I heard I saw your talk, or I read your blog post, and do you got any clue how you can help me out, or send me to certain resources?
Yeah.
And that is already a step forward. And, well, of course you need to Google it yourself first. Let's make that clear.
Sure.
But if it's a specific thing, yeah, why not? That is what community is about. It's not about just speakers.
Yeah. I think that's why I love being part of the kind of software engineering community, in that people are so open and honest and willing to cooperate with each other and willing to help out with, because we're dealing with specific problems, but there are similarities. Already the example you gave in moving from a monolith to a microservice architecture, right? It's been done before, right? And you probably have some specifics, but you're kind of treading the same waters in that way. And I love that people that have gone through that already are so open and willing to share what they've learned in numerous ways. It can be a conference talk, it can be a blog post, or it can be a podcast. I mean, that's kind of why I'm doing a podcast anyway.
Exactly, but that's also contributing to the community, like sharing your knowledge, sharing your thoughts. You don't even need to do it yourself, if you know what I mean. Like many conference owners or meetup owners or, well, podcast hosts, they don't know everything. So we invite other people so we can share, we can learn from each other, and we can push that back into the community for other people who are interested in that. Yeah, and that is the essence of community work.
Yeah. I think it started out kind of outside of organizations, but even within organizations, I think it's being recognized more that engineering communities and maybe even engineering culture can be so much more valuable, both within an organization as well as outside of organizations, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's you have, well, again, I mean, community was an umbrella, so that means you have different kinds of communities within your organization, specifically if you have a large organization. Yeah, there. You have your own developer community with their specific problems, or their specific ecosystem languages or stack that they need to work with. Yeah. And I think within that community, you can share as well, because engineering team 1 and engineering team 2 might do different things. They might be autonomous, having different ideas on things, but sharing that, like how I created our full autonomous pipeline to do whatever. Yeah. That might be interesting to share it, and what are the ideas, and enhance these ideas, but also by lifting up that people that created these things and saying, like, okay, just share that in an internal meetup kind of way. By explaining things, you need to you're just not only code it and make it work, but you also need to explain it. And by explaining it, they say you learn it for the second time, because then you come into the edge cases, and people will ask you questions, and you don't have to be afraid of these questions. It's also perfectly fine if you say, great question. Yeah. I'm not sure how to answer that, but maybe we can find this out, or I will come back to you with that, or let's figure it out together. That is perfectly fine, even if you're on a large conference talking to 100 people or 1,000 people, and you have a question like, I never thought of that. Yeah. That is interesting. Take it with you, use it for the next time. Maybe connect with that person that asked that question, because then you know that person is genuinely interested. Well, in most cases. Yeah. So it's not about being wrong, right? You don't have to be the expert in everything, but it's about learning.
Exactly. I really like that, because it boils down to just exactly what you said, the learning phase. And even the people that are on stage, or the people that are sharing in an environment, doesn't mean they've stopped learning and they know it all. No, they can still be challenged, and they can still learn even from the audience in asking questions, as long as you're just completely open about what you know and what you don't know. It's still that room for growth. that you can contribute to?
Yeah, we need to grow. We need to grow every single day. If you stand still, you're going backwards.
Yeah.
So, and you can, by giving back to the community, you're learning yourself, and you're deep diving into something, and you can consume from others. Like somebody else might have, okay, you had this, you were talking about this, but I wrote a blog post because we had this issue. Maybe that's interesting for you as well. I'm like, okay, fair. Let's read it. Let's make my knowledge even broader. Make sure that I'm aware of that too. And maybe I read it and I think like, oh, that is great. Maybe I include it even in my talk, and maybe not. But at least I know now.
Exactly.
And that is the essence of it.
Yeah. If someone wants to start out and be part of the community, what do you think is the easiest step? Because I've never been to an actual specifically developers conference. I've been to a marketing one for some reason, and I browse Reddit and I type some comments in. I want to learn how to program. That's a subreddit, but I've never actually delved into a conference. What do you think is a good way to initially start there?
I think to initially start there is to look in your local, like in your region, what kind of meetups are there? Meetups are basically smaller ways of engaging with people.
Yeah.
And I love meetups, and I talk about them a lot because they are so interactive.
Yeah.
If I'm there, if you're speaking to 10 people, they will have questions for you. If you speak to 1,000 people, it might be silent because it's one-way traffic.
Okay.
So that is an interesting thing. What I think about smaller meetups, but start there. Learn, know these people. Like networking is a real thing, also for developers, because if you have a certain problem, and I found out like, oh, I know this dude that works for this company, and he might know somebody, I just send him a DM on Twitter or and ask them. So start there. Go to a local conference that you think is interesting. Yeah. And I think I'm part of the Java community. Yeah. I'm far deep into the Java community actually. And every year we have this conference in the Netherlands, JFall. And a lot of years I didn't even go for specific talks. I went there because I was sure that I would meet up with other folks that I've worked with in the past, and it was just catching up. And what are you doing now? Oh, you did this. Oh, how did you cope with this problem, etc., etc. And that conversation grows if you meet more people. Yeah. And I think that is something that is so interesting because everybody wants to help you. The only thing that we have to do better is making sure that we are willing to speak to newbies, as in, no, but you get that. It's easy to stay in your comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the only thing that sometimes we need to do better. And every time I'm at a conference, I'm just like going to somebody, or if there's a group like from a specific company and like, hey folks, I've seen you around, like, what are you actually doing? A genuine question, what are you actually doing? And then you have the most amazing conversations. And I'm like, okay, I need to know this. I want to go deeper into this. I want to know how you solve certain problems, or same with speakers on a conference. Like, talk to them afterwards. They're humans. They're not like those rock stars. No, they're humans that have actual problems and solve actual engineering problems. And in between, like, meet with other people, mingle. I believe you can learn a lot from them. Yeah,
I like the way you laid it out, because it's so much more than the actual kind of talk you're going to, right? Because you can engage with so many interesting people. To me, it does sound scary, just walking up to some people you've never met and being like, hey, man, heard about your talk. I was listening. I have some questions on this and this. But as you say, the speakers are very open to do that and to have that conversation and to be challenged, because that's also an opportunity for them to learn, and for everyone.
You know, the funny thing is, if you are on a stage and you're speaking to, say, a large audience, and there are no questions.
That's like, the void.
The void, and you're like, okay, thank you, but you see people nodding, and that's okay. I mean, I'm totally done with these virtual conferences now, but that's a whole other topic. Yeah. But you know what the funny thing is? I think every single time when we're done with that talk and I am like packing my bag again with my laptop in it and make sure all my cables are back, there are always people coming up to me and asking like, hey, great, but then because I understand that it's scary to do that in public, these questions, or you might feel like this is a stupid question. I'm not saying that out loud.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine, not judging in any way. But they come up to me or to the speaker and they start talking, and there are always people gathering around. And in so many occasions, it turns out to be a discussion like, yeah, but what if you do this and what if you do that? And that is gold. That is the key point of these kind of things. The talk on a conference is just an engager. It's a fire starter.
Yeah.
And then we need to get that, because there are always cases that are not applicable. It's a general thing.
Yeah.
Like, and even though it's specific, it might still be kind of general because you have to serve a large audience.
Yeah.
And I believe that these discussions are so essential that, go up to them. And probably as somebody else who wants to ask the first question, so you're all good. You're all good. But even if you're not, just bump into that speaker and say like, great talk. I have a question. If you actually have a question, or just say great talk. But like a few weeks ago, you had Juan here.
Yeah.
And he also said something like, when somebody's posting something cool on LinkedIn and or Twitter or say, hey, that's a great piece and I use it for that, that is exactly the same or the same mindset.
Yeah.
And I believe that that is part of being the community. It's not about you being a speaker and there are great people and there are people on the bottom. No, there is no top or bottom.
Yeah.
So everybody can engage, everybody can help, everybody can learn, and we make each other stronger.
That is a really cool perspective, man. I really like that. That it's just not necessarily about the hierarchy. There's not necessarily hierarchy. It's just about participating and engaging, right? And once you engage, you are part of, and you contribute to the greater good, which is learning and sharing that knowledge, paying it forward, basically.
Yeah, and I think because we have such great communities, there is so much knowledge spread all over these great people. Everybody's willing to share.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid. Ask questions. Come up, do it yourself, or even pick up a pull request in one of your favorite open source projects.
Yeah.
Or just start with adding tests to them. It sounds so like it sounds so easy, but it's so helpful.
Yeah.
So about all these things you can do in a community, or even in, like, you don't have to be on the stage. You can be on the background as well, helping out, making sure that there are blog posts, that these things are okay. I mean, just like you here for this podcast, there is a lot of work behind the scenes, and this work needs to be done. Yeah. Helping out just a small bit is helping that community, having this great content out into the world.
Yeah.
So everybody can help, and just by participating already, you're already helping.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. You said something earlier about being very involved in the Java community, and you're actually a Java champion.
Yes.
I hadn't heard that term before, and it sounds pretty crazy. What is that? What does that mean?
Well, they put you on a stage. They give you a medal, a golden medal, and they say like now.
Yeah, exactly.
A Java champion is a program by the Java champions. They started out in, I'm not sure, 2009 or so, now 2005 or something like that. And they say these are luminaires within the Java ecosystem. They share knowledge, they drive communities, all of that kind of stuff. Some are book authors. Most of them are Java user community leaders. They did a lot to grow the community, the Java community in general, or in a specific region or whatever. And they are all about helping and sharing knowledge. They have a great understanding of the language, that kind of thing. I mean, I think if you Google Java champion, you will have the full, what is a Java champion? So this is kind of my way of saying it. And what it is that if you are a Java champion, you can nominate somebody to be a champion. So it's a community thing. It's basically acknowledgement for what you did.
Okay.
So it's not so, there are no real perks.
Okay.
Yeah, well, one perk I have is like I've got a free license for one of the IDs, but that's not like that. These.
That's not the goal.
That's not the goal. The goal is, and there is, Java champion shouldn't be a goal. Java champion is something you get awarded by the Java champions that are there. Somebody nominates you and needs to make a case that you are a valid new member, or we should make this person, because, well, I think we can all point out people in our ecosystem that are great people. That's how it works. And then everybody has to vote. And if the voting is good, like, if there are too many negative votes, like, no, this person is actually a prick, or he made some comments on Twitter that are not really ethical, then you're not.
Yeah.
Then you will be, you will get dropped. But if everybody agrees, like, this is a great person, and yes, we should celebrate that he's with us, it's basically your, I want to say a lifetime achievement award, but it's that recognition, and it's all about that. It's nothing more. I won't get a new job because of that. Like, my boss is not like, oh, you're Java champion, good for you. Here, you got a raise. No, not at all.
Exactly.
So it's an honorable thing, and I think at this point there are about 400-ish in the world.
Yeah.
So
it's really cool, man. That's such a community thing to just put an accolade on the people that contribute a lot, right? And really just pay it forward, and that are just good people in general.
Exactly.
You want to recognize that, and I mean, celebrate it in some sort of way. But it's not necessarily hierarchy, right? It's just an accolade that you put on someone.
It's not hierarchy at all. And there are a lot of people in this group that I look up to.
Yeah.
And they were Java champions, and now I am one of them. I'm like, okay, no, like, they're so much better than I am.
Yeah.
But everybody needs somebody to look up to, I guess.
Yeah.
So it will always be that way. There will always be folks that are better. There will always be folks that are, well, that can learn from you.
Yeah.
But you can always grow, and that is, again, what it's all about, helping each other out.
Yeah.
And it's not about profit. It's not about gaining an advantage or that. It's about genuinely helping each other.
Exactly.
And implicitly, you help yourself. Like, I believe that by giving, you're learning as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, starting out, I thought I'm so junior. I just need to absorb everything that's around me, and they're not going to learn from me because I'm the most novice person here. But the other way around, I talked to one of my peers, and they actually said, well, I'm not necessarily learning how I'm doing Java, for example, but from you, I'm learning more of the people aspect or more of your mindset, right? There's so much that is involved in building software or just getting stuff done that it doesn't have to be a specific thing that you can learn about, but you can learn about, well, it's that breadth versus depth, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Nowadays, they want software developers to be skilled in everything, not just writing code, but you need to speak, you need to blog, you need to make podcasts, you need to do video editing. I had no clue how to write a good blog post in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I asked for help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, how you do that? Ask for help with people who are more experienced with that. But also video editing, like, I know, okay, I probably need a camera, probably need a microphone. What is a good microphone?
Exactly.
Like, I talked to one of my buddies who was in the same space, like, hey, you're doing these kind of things, and this looks cool.
Yeah.
What is your setup? And that's a question you get all over the internet, of course. Like, What is your setup? But why did you choose that setup? And what is the benefits of what you're using? Like, and what should I do? I want to do this, but I'm not sure how to start.
Exactly.
What are your best practices on this? And I ask around to different people, and they have different opinions.
Yeah.
And then I just
pick one of the options.
Pick or cherry pick, whatever. Like, I think this, and experiment.
Yeah.
Experiment. But I'm experimenting with the knowledge that I already gained from other people, so I don't make the same mistakes. And sometimes I do because
you want to try it out.
I want to try it out, or I'm just like, no, I can do this better. You know what I mean? And we all have that. But then you say, like, now I understand why he said, like, don't do this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Exactly.
So it's not about just only the technical part. It's about all sorts of things.
Yeah, I think people or companies are really just seeking people that have the ability to learn a lot of different things, right? You don't necessarily need to have it when you start, as long as you have that ability to learn and take ownership of the things that you don't know. Experiment, fail, learn from that, get up and start running again.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. You need to keep learning, and it's not about, I don't know it, so I'm not good enough. No, I don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and there are a lot of people within your company, and you can see that as a community as well, within your company that can help you. I mean, you probably, in every company, hopefully, there is a group of maybe senior developers that take on the junior and mentor them.
Yeah.
That is also basically what in the community works, but that's in your internal community, in your company.
Yeah.
And in global communities, you just, or national communities, you just take a broader approach in that.
Yeah.
I don't care where you work. If you want to learn how to speak, let's do this, or try to achieve something like that. But also for companies, some companies need to like, okay, we want our developers to be more aware of, well, take security, for instance, which is my how can we do this?
Yeah.
And there's probably somebody who knows somebody that is either has a program or a speech or maybe a workshop around this that can already be that fire starter again, so you can learn more. But it's not just doing that; it's taking that with you, do something with it, and bring it forward. Like, share it again.
Yeah. As in, one of the things you said triggered something in me, in that I see organizations starting to collaborate more with the communities that are out there, right? Open source project, putting their intellectual property out there for other people to use. What have you seen that has worked quite well for organizations, just paying it forward in that way?
I think by giving back to the community, you simply say that you care.
Yeah.
And we all know, well, for companies, it's hard to find good developers.
Oh, yeah.
So treat your developers right. Help your developers, help them grow, but also invest in the community. And basically that, well, puts you in a good place as a company owner or something like that.
Yeah.
But your developers can also benefit from that. So it's, again, give and take, and it's not only by individuals, but also by companies. Why not?
Yeah.
Happy developer probably stays with you, and it's harder to find a new good developer than to make the person happy and say, like, if I have one of my developers would be, I want to go into blog writing or video editing, like, oh, I know a buddy that is like, connect with a few people, and that is community.
Yeah.
And I don't have developers with, I'm a developer, you know, but I would give that person some time, maybe some money to spend that on that, like for time box it, for instance, like if you have 2 days or a few days, just do that. I know that most people have learning budgets or something like that. And that is interesting if we use that and we leverage the community for that to help them out, sponsor the community.
Yeah.
First of all, they know of your company. Second of all, you bring something back, you do something good. That also means that if you come up, that new developers might want to work for you. Yeah. And you, in the same time, you help your developers grow, your own developers grow. So it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, exactly. That's the situations you want, right? My buddy Sergio calls it passion farming, right? And it can be someone that's internal that loves to do blog posts or even podcasts or whatever. And the organization should be there to kind of sponsor them and make sure to give them a kickstart and to just basically remove roadblocks, make sure they can do their passion besides their natural work, because that's how they stay, right? That's how they get engaged. That's also how they collaborate and communicate to the community. That's where it starts.
And I think by writing these blog posts, as you mentioned, you gain a lot of more insights, because you might think you know, and then you start writing, and then for me, it's like, then that little voice in my head comes up like, but what about this?
Exactly.
I'm like, okay, maybe I'm going completely off track, but then I know. Yeah. And that is something, okay, I gained this information and I'm using this, probably I put this in my backpack and I use it somewhere else. Yeah. So that is interesting. And so I learn, you learn while you were doing that, you're giving that outreach, that person is happy, that person is growing. Yeah. Personal growth is so important.
Exactly.
And then you're growing your company as well, because, hey, might be other people that want to do this, or it's just basically good branding as well. Yeah, well, let's be honest. I mean, if you're working for a company that holds you back, and you hear this from your buddy, do you want to work for the company?
Yeah,
probably not so much, or it already that, well, it has like -1 for you.
Exactly.
So
it's already behind.
It's already behind, and you don't want that, and you don't want your company to be that. So it's of course, in marketing terms, to come back to marketing, it might be also good for your branding part, but sure. I think in the end, you want to be that your developers in your company are ambassadors for you.
Yeah.
That's saying, I'm working in such a great company. And then that's a good thing, because then you don't need advertisement, because your developers, you put your money where your mouth is, and your developers having a good time, enjoying making good products for you or doing good work for you.
Yeah.
They advocating for you.
Exactly.
And that's, in my opinion, exactly what you want as a company owner.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. That's where you want to be as a company. And as an employee, that's what you want from your company.
Yeah.
To just give you a boost.
And it's two ways, of course. And I know you discussed this before, but it's not only that your company needs to provide you. No, your company needs to help you.
Yeah.
And if you really want to do it, you also need to put some of your own time in.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't become all the community stuff I'm basically doing in my free time.
Yeah.
Partially my company sponsoring me with some time or some money that we need for the things we do. Or when I'm speaking, I'm doing that on behalf of the company.
Yeah.
Okay. But I spend a ton of time on my own, because I simply like it. I love it. And it's also for my personal growth.
Yeah. Speaking about your personal growth, I was looking for a hook there. But you're already on stage and talking to, I think, thousands of people who started out small, but it's grown. What is kind of that next step? Is it bigger and bigger? Or do you want to specialize and do more of a mentorship one-on-one? What's that next step for you?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. I'm not sure what my next step will be. No, but honestly, I'm not, like, if you will ask me the question, like, what you have in these interviews, like, where do you stand in 5 years? I hate this kind of question, because I simply don't know.
Exactly.
I'm like, where do you want to be in 2 years? I want to be better at what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Because I believe you can always improve. So I want to be the better, or, well, if we have that goal, I want to be the best in what I'm doing now. Will I be the best ever? Probably not, but I can strive for that. So what is my next step? I'm also currently working on mentoring with people. Like, again, I have experience in certain things. Share it.
Yeah.
Making other people better. And if I can help them out, I enrich the community.
Yeah.
They probably bring up speakers that have other technical knowledge. I can learn from them as well. So that is one of the next steps.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if there is a bigger. I haven't thought of it. I'm just doing what I like. Want to do it. Certainly want to do more. I want to grow in that. And what it will be in, say, 5 years, I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah,
maybe I just retire and do, I don't know, crafting beer or something. That would be fun. But I'm not now. But in all seriousness, I never thought what would be my next big step.
Yeah.
Currently, I want to go back to where we were in 2019 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because letting the world be a little bit normal and doing this more in a face-to-face kind of way, that gives me so much energy.
I can see that, man. I can feel that.
That gives me so much energy, instead of like these things on Zoom and Teams and doing this virtually. That, for me personally, that drains a lot of energy, because I don't have feedback. Even if I do workshops or speaking to people or mentoring, like, I want to do this in person again, and I hope that we can do that. So that is my first goal. Let's go back to that, and let's put everything into place that we can to make this possible in a safe manner. Yeah,
I love it, man. I love your perspective, even in the way that you're saying how you love the community. It's always about a win-win, right? Giving and taking, in the way that the goal is to just share knowledge and progress yourself as well, either in your career or personally. It doesn't really matter, as long as we're progressing, right? That's the forward thinking. I really love that mindset. I want to thank you for coming on, Brian. I had a lot of fun, man.
Thanks, man.
Hope you did too.
Thanks for having me, and hope to see you. I'll hope to listen to you next time.
Thanks, man.
All right.
We'll do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
Brian Vermeer, everyone.
Thank you.
Beyond Coding. From your sponsors, Zebia, creating digital leaders.